everybody. It's just past noon in DC right now, and um, it's time for some ponderings from the Purple Parlor. My name is Ginger Gaines Sorelli. I'm the senior pastor at Foundry United Methodist Church, and it's my joy to welcome you here for just a few minutes. And here is what's on my mind today. It's been kind of a swirl and flurry of activities and things going on. There goes Fiona across my lap. And I'm finding myself today, gratefully this morning, having you don't disconnect my stuff, baby. Come here. I know it's all very interesting. Here she is. There's Fiona. And yes, so what I'm finding today is that I have thankfully had some space this morning to just be and to be still, because I've been moving a lot and processing a lot, holding a lot. And so I just wanted to reflect a little bit about, once again, I come back around to this often, but I think it's one of those things that with so much happening outside of our lives and so much that we're managing inside our own lives, we're right about, I was trying to look and see where we are in the flow of Lent. And we've got, yeah, maybe over halfway there, a little over halfway through the journey. But it's a good time to just kind of take stock, see where we are and how we're doing. And with the continued war in Ukraine and the just devastation there, of course, natural disasters just in the last few days, the terrible treatment of I just can't even, there's this way that people think they can treat women. And I was looking, one of the best responses that I've seen so far, well, there have been a lot, to the hearings that are happening right now. Oh, come on. Anyway, as you can see, I'm feeling a little like I'm moving through molasses. It's kind of how I feel right now. And there's so much trauma continuing to be like out in the world, and people being treated terribly and hurt. And so with all of that outside of ourselves and all the things that we're having to try to manage in our own lives, it's just a lot. And so sometimes we need to just stop and take stock. Of course, it's one of the ways that we're invited into Lent is to a time of self-examination and to lay ourselves bare before God and acknowledge what's real and where we've fallen short, where we've been the perpetrators of harm, where we are in need of growth, in need of new life, and to listen for where God is calling us and how God calls us to respond to the things happening around us and the things that are real within us. And right now I continue to have conversations with a lot of folks who are hitting, just, it's been this series of kind of riding waves of dealing with the pandemics and reaction to that, and how our different systems, our bodies and spirits can navigate, or trying to navigate. And people are crashing, again. And Also, people are continuing to try to figure out what they're going to do. I've talked about, things going on in the United Methodist Church. Was that last week? And, there are lots of folks that are really deciding whether they want to hang in there or, I mean, just pastors, clergy, and laity, of course, as well, or find new ways of living out their discipleship. Um, and so there's a lot of discernment going on. What direction am I supposed to go? Just trying to get our head clear in the midst of all the static and um, the things going on all around us. And so one of the things that often comes to my mind, and I've shared this before in this space, but it's the a piece of the Tao Te Ching that I read years and years ago, and it says, "Can you wait?" This is a paraphrase because I don't have the text right in front of me. Can you wait until the mud settles? Standing in the river, can you wait until the mud settles and the water becomes clear and right action emerges? There's this sense of like the more we're moving around, we just stir everything up. But we need to just be still, even in the midst of things moving. You're standing in the middle of a river with all the silt and whatnot in the bottom. And the more you keep, fighting it or trying to move or to figure out where you need to go in the midst of all of that, you're just stirring everything up, and it's not clear where you can put your foot safely next. And if you just stand still long enough, then all the silt begins to settle, and you see where there might be a place where you can take the next step without slipping on a rock or cutting yourself on something or doing damage to something that's there. But it requires being still while other things continue to flow, to just be still and to look carefully and honestly. So that came to mind, and I thought I would just lift it up. I am coming off of there's a lot of moving pieces, is all I'm going to say. Just a lot of moving pieces in the church, in the world, and I just feel like I've got static. And so anyway, it's going to be a short pondering today because my own mind is not clear. I'm giving myself some space for chunks of today to try to be still and to invite spirit into my being, and to help me be still and to look carefully at what the next steps are, and to try to know how to be present, and how to do what it is that God calls me to do, and how to continue to be faithful in my own journey this Lent, and come to a place where I can experience the fullness of Easter, which is just in a few weeks. So I would invite all of you to just sort of ponder where you are in all of that. Are you feeling stirred up and full of static? Or have you gotten to a point of stillness and clarity? But it is a spiritual practice sometimes to just be still, with intention. And the classic text, of course, that goes along with that is Psalm 46:10. I don't think it can ever be over spoken or over uttered, overused, when there's this moment in the prayer in the psalm where God says, "Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. And that is in the context of all the things swirling that are fearful and difficult and painful. And to know we can't save ourselves, we can't redeem ourselves, we can't save the world, but we can do what we can do. And we can seek to learn and grow and to allow what has happened, what we've done, what others have done to us, what's going on, what we have culpability for, what we have responsibility or accountability for, what can we do about it. So clarity about those things, humility, and leaning on God, who is God, and knowing that I've had this piece of a prayer coming into my mind sort of over the last few weeks. And it's a line from a prayer that we use sometimes in the celebration of life service out of the Book of Worship. And it speaks of the one who has died as a sheep of Christ's own fold, a sinner of God's own redeeming. And I don't know why that's been floating through my head, but I'm feeling grateful that the invitation from God is to be still and let God be God. And that means that there is hope and newness and growth and forgiveness and grace and mercy and new opportunity and direction and clarity. All of those things are promises as we stay close and still and look for the path that appears by God's grace. So my invitation is to be still a little and invite Spirit in to whatever it is swirling around in you, in your mind and heart, and see if you can remember that that God is with you and that God will be God. That's what I got. We have more baptisms on Sunday. We had 3 this past Sunday. We have, I think, two at 11:15 this coming Sunday. So that'll be special if you're around, want to join us online or in person. And our Lenten Appeal has been opened, and we're the gifts to Lenten Appeal help fund the work of the continuing ongoing work of Journey to Racial Justice, and also a part of that fund as well will be directed to an initiative around Black equity and home ownership. So the information about that is online, so I hope you'll check that out if you haven't had a chance to look at that, and if you can, make a gift to our Lenten Appeal this year. I hope that y'all are taking good care of yourselves and staying safe as we hear, that there's new stuff flying around. And again, remember that itty bitties are still not able to be vaccinated, and many of our vulnerable neighbors aren't able to be vaccinated either. So we continue to wear our masks at Foundry. But our numbers in person are growing, so if you're feeling comfortable, I think it's a pretty safe space. There, we're a pretty highly vaccinated crowd. We're in our masks and have good ventilation and such. So anyway, I hope we'll see you online or in person at worship. And I invite you now to pray with me. God, for the blessing of your presence, for moments when we can simply be still, for your Spirit who comes and dwells with us and shows us what we need to see, guides us in closer to your way and to your love. We give you thanks and praise, and I ask that you would be with those who are feeling really lost or hurting, confused, who don't know what the next step needs to be in whatever part of their lives. I pray for the church, for the United Methodist Church, and for all communions who are seeking to be faithful and to follow in the way of Jesus. God, pray with those. I pray for those who are especially feeling pain right now and grief. And I pray all of these things in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thanks for hanging out for a little bit today for a few fairly still, slightly rambly ponderings. I am going to force myself. No, I keep checking in on Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, and I'm just praying for her. So let's all pray for her too, because that, it's ridiculous. And have a beautiful day. May you know in the core of your being the liberating power of God's love, and may God's peace be with you. I'll see you next time.